Okay, so you can see here, this is where we left off on the last video. We're looking at something called glycoproteins. So glycoproteins are proteins with a sugar attached to them in the membrane. Glycoproteins have a specific job. They help cells recognize each other, which means it's a way that cells can communicate. So remember what we said about the membrane. The membrane facilitates exchange, and one of the parts of exchange is communication. So glycoproteins help with communication between cells, and it's a way that cells can recognize another cell. Cells can't really see each other, but they can connect to adjacent glycoproteins. And this is one way that cells can recognize what other types of cells are next to them. Okay, and then this picture here is pretty great. Again, it just shows so many different parts of the cell membrane and all the different interactions. And you can see it's actually a really complex part of the cell. So you can see the receptor proteins, you can see the junction proteins, you can see the glycoproteins interacting down here. And remember, we learned about those three different types of junctions in animal cells in our last unit. So we learned about the anchorage aspects of junctions, and we also talked about tight junctions preventing liquid from leaking out and all that kind of stuff. We also learned about receptor proteins as well. So we're going to skip over these videos, but you can watch them if you want to. So this is a really cool connection with evolution of life and cell membranes. So basically, when you put phospholipids into water, these phospholipids will, on their own, without anything else, they'll form into bubbles. So basically, they'll make little membrane spheres, like little bilayer bubbles. And this does not happen because the DNA is telling the phospholipids to do this. This is just what phospholipids do naturally when you put them into water. So it says phospholipids spontaneously self-assemble. So that means by themselves, they'll do this without any direction or control. This is just happening because of the chemical properties of the hydrophobic tails and the hydrophilic heads. When you put phospholipids into water, they form bubbles, okay? So you can see this picture here is showing a water-filled bubble made of phospholipids. So this is not a cell. This is just phospholipids in water. When you put phospholipids into water, they make bubbles, okay? This is just a natural thing that phospholipids do. But this actually was very crucial for how cells evolved because of this fact, the fact that these phospholipids, these little biological molecules could form these bubble shapes on their own. And so that's why really all cells are based around this membrane cell structure, right? All cells have a membrane, and it's very essential that these membranes are formed because this is what separates the contents of the cell from the outside world. And let's look at this checkpoint question. It says, why would the formation of a simple lipid bilayer membrane not be sufficient? What else would have to be part of such a membrane? Well, remember what we just looked at. Cell membranes have a lot more parts than just the phospholipids. Phospholipids are a good structure, but they can't do everything for the cell. Okay, and that's a good place to stop for this video.